Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today I'm looking at Dynasty trades you, the audience, made. Make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe if you haven't. 60% of viewers aren't subscribed yet. Let's change that today. Here's our first trade. The first one, Ja'Marr Chase for 107, 110, 26 first, and Jaylen Waddle, 10-team, 1 QB league. So, obviously, Chase is a super stud player. He's my Dynasty wide receiver 1. Waddle, I have down at Dynasty wide receiver 15. And we know that in 10-team leagues, you have to have a better team to win because there's fewer teams in the league. So those stud players matter more. However, while I love Ja'Marr Chase, if we look at the package on the other side, Jaylen Waddle's still pretty good. And then you're adding a 26 first, 107 this year, and 110. If we look at my ranks for 1 QB, 107 could be Jonathan Brooks, 110, maybe Lad McConkey, Caleb Williams, Trey Benson, that range. Would you really trade all of those things for Ja'Marr Chase as much as I love him? For me, the answer is no. I just can't imagine paying this much for any single player. I don't think any player is worth this. We do enter territory of no player is worth that much. And I think that's kind of where we're at here. Next trade. Kyren Williams for 25 first and 25 second, 12-team Superflex. So I loved Kyren Williams last year, right? He was very, very good. And let's take a look at just how good he was. In just 12 games, he had 228 carries, 1,144 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 32 catches, 206 yards, and 3 touchdowns through the air. But while this is all great, selling these late round running backs who break out for a profit is almost always the right move. Almost always. Plus, the Rams drafted Blake Corum, who, as we know, had a lot of success at Michigan and offers a lot of the same skill sets that we've seen from Kyren Williams. So for me, the verdict is that I would rather have the picks over Kyren Williams. It's not really a hard decision. And the 25 second removes kind of any doubt I would have because it's a second piece to give value to guard against Kyren blowing up. Even if Kyren is great, at least you have 2 chances to replace that production in the 25 draft. So I would easily take the picks here. Now, our third trade, and this one I thought was very interesting. Michael Pittman for Davante Adams and a 26 first, 12-team Superflex. So this trade, like I said, is very interesting to me. We're starting with the Pittman side, and it brings in a type of move I don't talk about very much on here. I don't talk about this type of move on the YouTube channel because it's sending a middle-aged player for an older one and a future first. It's the idea of getting older at the position to keep production and then getting younger in the future with future draft capital. Now, let's compare Adams' production in 2023 to Pittman's. So Adams had 103 catches, 1,144 yards, 8 touchdowns, 175 targets, 6.1 catches, and 67.3 yards a game. Pittman, 109 catches, 1,152 yards, 4 touchdowns, 156 targets, and 6.8 catches and 72 yards a game. So Pittman had more volume, fewer touchdowns. We know touchdowns are less sticky. I think these players will have about similar production in 2024. I have some concerns about Davante Adams. I do. He fell to 15.6 fantasy points a game in 2023. Just had 19.7 in 2022 and 21.5 in 2021. But despite that, he was still a target machine. Last year, number 1 in air yard share, 44.2%. Number 2 in target share, 33.1%. So he was still getting the ball. But I understand not wanting a 26 first because it's a bit far away. Now, for me, I still lean on the Davante Adams side. I wish it were a 25 first. But if I had Michael Pittman, I'm okay making this move because I do think that another Colts target emerges. And with Anthony Richardson, who we know is going to run the ball a lot, do we expect, if I had to choose, do we expect Michael Pittman to have more or less than 6.8 catches and 72 yards per game and 156 targets in 16 games. I would take less. I think the volume comes down a little bit, especially with both Adonai Mitchell and Josh Downs competing maybe a tiny bit more for targets. So for those reasons, I like the idea of getting the 26 first here and just riding Davante Adams into the ground or trading Davante Adams for something else. But either way, I'll take the Pittman side, or not the Pittman side. Davante Adams in 26 first side. Now, if you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. You get my rankings, access to the Discord, ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos, and also all of the trades on this show come from the Patreon Discord. That's where my most excited, loyal audience members get to participate and interact with me every day. I'm there every day. There's a Dynasty trades discussion. All of these trades came from there. Tiers begin at just $6 a month, which includes the Discord and all of my rankings. I also have Patreon roster reviews, which are only available for patrons. You can sign up for those, and I'll do a video just on your team for the entire Patreon. So that's something new and exciting that I'm doing. And yeah, all support goes to make my independent content possible. Doing independent fantasy football content is hard, really hard. So yeah, I just appreciate everyone who signs up. Yeah. Next up, Rhamondre Stevenson and 25 second for 25 first. 12 team Superflex here. So in this case, we're starting with the Stevenson side. For some of these were more hypothetical questions. Others, it was asked, I have X. Should I trade it for Y? This is the latter. Stevenson, to me, is a scary dynasty asset. He just got a contract extension, but he's already 26 years old. Usually, that would be a time where I would look to capitalize on that player, or I would look to move on. Yes, they don't have a lot of competition. They have Stevenson and Antonio Gibson. Could they add someone in 2025? I think so. Someone younger in the draft. I think they might look to do that, as both players will be 27 next year. Because they literally have no one else. No one. They have zero other players of relevance. Now, in 2022, Rhamondre Stevenson was great. 210 carries, 1,040 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5 yards a carry, and 69 catches, 421 yards and touchdowns. So he had good rushing volume, good receiving volume, good efficiency. In 2023, not so good. 156 carries, 619 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 yards a carry, and 38 catches for 238 yards. Now, the big problem and the difference between 2022 and 2023 was a lack of breakaway runs, a lack of those. He had 1.9% of carries in 2023 where he broke away, compared to 7.1 in 2022. So that's why his yards per carry went down, because there were no big plays. He didn't deliver those big plays. And what do we want in fantasy? Do we want someone who's going to get work at the goal line? Yes, we want that. We want the receiving game. Yes, that went down in 2023. Goal line, we have 9 touchdowns over the last 2 years. It's either not getting a lot of goal line work or not doing very well with it. And then the third thing we run, the Davante chain, is the breakaway runs. We're not getting that either. So he's not delivering in those areas. Now, for those reasons, I would take the first. In Superflex, the first is a much more high-value asset. I'm not saying that Rhamondre Stevenson is going to be bad. I think he's going to be the starter. He's going to play, and he's going to get the volume. Will he ever matter? Will you win your league because of Rhamondre Stevenson? No. He's already 26. I think it's fair to say that the truth is somewhere between 2022 and 2023, in which case he would be a mid RB2, which is where I have him ranked for redraft, RB17. But in that case, in a super flex, I got to take the first. I'm never doing this in the other direction. And Rhamondre Stevenson, also with a contract, is a massive sell high if you can get out on Stevenson. Now, our last trade, and this one was inspired by a segment on one of my recent videos on here. 27 second for Jahan Dotson. I get it. 27 is far away. This is not how we use draft capital, though. This was giving up the 27 second for Jahan Dotson. I don't want a player who flops as much as Dotson. Now, last year, Dotson, 49 catches, 518 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 83 targets. Now, that doesn't sound so bad, but he ran a lot of routes 626 routes, fourth among wide receivers. Despite running the fourth most routes, that would be good, right? You want to run a lot of routes. Was he good at doing anything last year? How about a 13.8% target share, 68th among wide receivers? Was that good? No, not good. What about yards per route run? Maybe that was better. Nope. 0.83 yards per route run. I mean, that is embarrassingly bad. 92nd among wide receivers. How about air yards? You would think a lot of air yards. No, he didn't have a lot of those either. Just 768 air yards, 58th among wide receivers. So he was bad at all of these things, everywhere, bad across the board. So I'd rather have the 27-second over Dotson. I'd rather have something over nothing. I think you could do better. You can probably get a 26-second if you're selling him. Maybe you could go around and undo this move and sell Dotson for a 26-second if it comes to that. I really don't want him. Every single marker. I mean, we looked at target share. We looked at yards per route run. We looked at air yards. Nothing says that Jahan Dotson is going to break out. Everything says that he's bad. So I would not want him on my team, period. Now, I have a couple of Patreon questions, and then we'll wrap up the show. What are your opinions on Carson Wentz? Opinions on Carson Wentz. Well, that's interesting. I didn't think we were in 2017 or 2018 where Carson Wentz mattered, but I have no opinion on Carson Wentz per se. Carson Wentz is a backup. However, I love stashing higher-end backup quarterbacks in Superflex leagues. Yes, because last year we know, and every year, 50 or 55 or even closer to 60 quarterbacks will start in the NFL. And we know that the Chiefs, they revitalized their offensive weapons. If Wentz came in and started games, we don't want to talk about Patrick Mahomes getting hurt. We don't want to really think about that. But if that happened, it's possible. Anyone can get hurt. Wentz will probably come in and be a low-end quarterback too, which is relevant in Superflex. But that's all he is. He's never going to get another shot as a starter. So he's below some of those other quarterbacks that I think, if they got a run, could be a starter again. I don't think Wentz ever will be. So he's rosterable in most Superflex leagues, and that's all, really. Who are your favorite sleeper breakouts for the tight end position this year? Great question. So I'm not going to pretend like some content creators on Twitter that Kyle Pitts, Jake Ferguson, and Brock Bowers are sleepers, right? I heard on Twitter, no one is talking about the upside of Kyle Pitts, Jake Ferguson, and Brock Bowers. No one's talking about them. Yeah, that's a lie. So for me, when it comes to sleepers, if you want the higher end of a sleeper, I would say Pat Freiermuth is a good place to start with a sleeper. I don't know if he counts. We know there's a path to targets. The Steelers don't really have good wide receivers outside of George Pickens. Nothing proven after that. And we know Arthur Smith loves tight ends. Problem is he going to focus all on Pat Freiermuth, or will he get Darnell Washington, other tight ends involved? So that'll be really the decider for that. If you want lower than that, if either Luke Musgrave or Tucker Kraft locks down the main role and doesn't give it up, that could be a sleeper. The problem is that Tucker Kraft is currently hurt. He was the one who played all the snaps at times last year, and Luke Musgrave never did. I have a feeling we're going to be frustrated with that combo. If you want something really deep, in deep leagues like Scott Fishbowl or Dynasty, where you can roster a bunch of players, Ben Sinnott is worth a stash if you can wait for Cliff Kingsbury to start Zach Ertz for the first 4 or 5 weeks. If you can wait for that, Ben Sinnott, I think, at some point this year, not drafting him in a regular redraft league, but in Dynasty, if he's on the back of your roster, I do think at some point this year, I really liked his college profile. He could be someone who could break out over the second half of the season. So he's someone I would keep an eye on. Now, if you like the video, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. As always, the best way to support the channel is to subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, it's available on the Patreon. Dynasty, redraft, rookie, starts it, and more. And every sign up helps support my independent fantasy football content. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.